Hey, Dave, how are you?
Hey, Johnny, how are you?
Awesome, awesome. Hey, we're both in Southern sunny California, aren't we?
You know what we call that, right?
Yep,
Spoiled.
yep. What?
We call it spoiled. We're spoiled.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then it would be wonderful if we could also get a little rain once in a while.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
You know what I love about Southern California, I've been out here since
Yeah.
2008, is when it does rain, it seems like it rains at night when I'm sleeping. So I can't, I don't even have the guts to complain. I absolutely love it out here, and it's home now.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful because you've been from back east, right? I remember
Yeah.
your story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell the listening and learning audience out there is that Dave and I have known each other for a while now, probably maybe 3-4 years, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I'm Johnie Urban, and I am the founder of Sensitive Authentic Speaker, and I am interviewing Dave on my channel here, Entrepreneurs Wearing Hats. So you can always find us on YouTube, Entrepreneurs Wearing Hats. And Dave here is a phenomenal speaker. Him and I met because we shared a stage, believe it or not, at an event. And he just blew me away. Of all the speakers that were there, Dave was the one that was truly authentic to his core. To his core. Yes, he was up there and he was doing all his crazy stuff and his personality and everything like that, but it was so authentically him. And he was having so much fun, and it wasn't a performance. It was really him, true to the bone. And then we met a couple times later for coffee and everything like that. He ultimately interviewed me for his live broadcast. And then we met up again just recently. And I go, Dave, can I interview you? And he's just like, yay. So here we are.
Awesome. And I want to thank you for that compliment because, I tell people the greatest compliment I can ever get is that you were real. And that's it. To me, it's the greatest compliment anybody can receive and anybody can give somebody is you were just real.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. We're real. We're raw. We're unscripted. And here we are.
That's it. Real, raw, and live.
It's the best way to live life.
It truly is. It's so liberating.
It is.
Absolutely liberating. I always say your story is your superpower.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely is. So audience, let me introduce you to tell you exactly who Dave Daley is. And then you're going to get to experience this amazing, heart-centered man. It's really crazy. So he's from San Diego, and he lives down in that area down there. And he's an accomplished entrepreneur, a CEO, author, and dynamic speaker. He is known as the Monster Motivator. And maybe he'll demonstrate that why he gets that name here in a minute. He captivates audiences with his high voltage presentations that are authentic, believe it or not, and real world practical steps for audiences to implement immediately. How cool is that? So, but one thing that about Dave's background though, for 25 years, he's been an entrepreneur. And he's had all these businesses. You can, if you go to his website and read his bio, it's just killer. So you'll understand his background and why he does what he does just by reading that. And he's built and sold 3 companies in 3 different industries. Not too many people can say that, for sure. And so on this broadcast, though, he is going to share some secrets that he has. And one of them is, let me read this. Instantly establish authority in your industry by learning this simple and very effective 4-step formula. That's going to take up a good half hour to talk about, you think, Dave?
Well, here's the great thing is everything that I share, I believe that life is simple, just not always easy, right? So, and I learn and teach very simplified way. So we're just going to hit those bullet points, and it's going to be so impactful that my goal is that now you can take some things today, your audience can take some things today and start applying. Because theory is great, but it doesn't get you to the deposit window.
Right, yeah.
Right? It's the practical steps that really create that action.
Yeah, that's going to be super valuable because listening audiences are usually, my audiences are usually entrepreneurs that really want to learn. Yeah. So whatever they can grab onto and take and run with, it's going to be really golden for them.
Awesome.
So the first thing I want to start with, Dave, though, is like, could you tell us what is, I know you started and sold multiple businesses and everything like that, and there's a driver inside you that does that. But what I'd like to know is what is driving you to do what you're doing now, going in the direction that you're going in now? Because I know it's a little unique.
Well, part of this is because I'm to keep it real, I'm really not even supposed to be here. See, let me give you a little bit of background and context of where it actually started, right? Let's take us back to the beginning of the Monster Motivator. And we'll go from the very beginning, and I'll give you a 30,000 foot view of why I say I'm not even supposed to be here, right? Yeah. Truth be told.
Right.
So I was put up for adoption at birth.
Oh, yeah.
And for the first 18 months of my life, I was in an orphanage in North Philly. And I was adopted at 18 months old by two amazing people. And I'm going to share a little bit more of that a little later. But when I say I'm not supposed to be here, I truly mean that. Left back in the 2nd grade, diagnosed with ADD, said I had a learning disorder, never graduated high school. And at 19, I'm sitting in a jail cell looking at 8 to 10 if things don't go my way. So to say that I'm not supposed to be here is not an understatement. But why I share that, why I'm so passionate about that, is what I'm so thankful for and grateful for is the start isn't nearly as important as the finish.
Yeah, that's
true. And when people can understand that, it changes the game, right? It changes the power of perception and what you decide to see. So that a little bit of again, a quick overview of where I started, where I came from. But interesting, Johnny, is I grew up in a push-pull environment. See, I grew up with the professionals. Now I'm putting my hands in the air, right? In the quotation marks, the professionals,
yeah,
right, in school said, don't expect a lot out of yourself because you can't learn in this cookie cutter mode, right? And I just, looking back, I didn't realize that all it was the entrepreneurial DNA. I was bored out of my mind. And when I was looking out the window in class, they said I was actually meditating. I realize that now, but they call it daydreaming. I just happened to be meditating. I just couldn't define it at the time. But when I say a push-pull, the professionals told me don't expect a lot out of yourself when you become an adult. But my mom was the biggest cheerleader of my life. Ever since I could remember, she told me I was a gift from God, that she loved me more than life. And I literally, Johnny, and when I speak, I actually share physical, she would send me cards. When I became an adult and moved out of the house, she would send me cards, motivational cards, and just say, I believe in you. You can do it. There's nothing you can't do. And when the professionals would sit with her and say, there's something wrong with them, or we have to do this, we have to put on medication, she never once bought into it. She goes, absolutely nothing wrong with him. He's just a typical little boy, and he's going to do whatever he wants to do when he wants to do it. So I grew up with that push-pull, but she was the first person that built my bulletproof self-image.
Wow.
And let me real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm such a believer. Everything that I talk about, everything that I share, everything that I coach, everything that I teach really maps back to your self-image, right? Because I believe that the greatest gift that any adult can give any child is a bulletproof self-image, because we could build our self-image up, we could tear it down, but we can't outperform it, right? So when you can help a little child or a teenager or a young adult create a bulletproof self-image, you're teaching them to fish instead of them thinking someone has to fish for them. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. This is really great. You're touching on a lot of things that I run across when I'm working with clients, that their self-image is really low. Especially, I teach public speaking to sensitive entrepreneurs, that's introverts, that's coaches, that they that they weren't raised that way. They were raised that there was something wrong with them. And I end up spending a lot of time with them, helping them realize that you have gifts and abilities. You have traits that are beyond measure. And we're going to tap into that, because that's really what your audience wants from you, is to see that. And when I see them transform into who they are born to be and step into that, that's why I do what I do. I see this magic happen, and I see this person all of a sudden just open up, and they're just a different person, and that's who they can present to the world. And that allows them to change who they're talking to. So it goes full, kind of like it expands from just me to them to who they're going to be talking to.
It's a domino.
It absolutely is. And yeah, so my goodness, I always imagine, what if they'd had a different childhood and they had learned this at an earlier age? But it's never too late, is it?
No, and here's the thing, is it's such a great point. First of all, I want the audience to understand that it's never a mistake. See, we connected because we have the same energy, right? You felt the energy from me when I was speaking, and then we connected after, and we stayed connected, and then we weren't connected for a while, and then we just ran into each other again. But it was you can't manufacture this.
Yeah.
I walked into the room, we saw each other, hugged and kissed, and it was you can't make that up. So the reason that is because we're both showing up authentic. We're both showing up real, raw, and live. Mm-hmm. And when people can do that, you blossom, and the people and the circumstances that will come into your life to make it happen. But you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing. And here's what I say: when you can learn how to wear and share your scars with pride, you become unstoppable. You become unstoppable.
Yeah.
It's so interesting when I speak and I share my background, you wouldn't believe, and I know you would believe it, but people wouldn't believe the people that come up after I talk that you would never think in a million years. You would look at them and say they have it all together, or they're at a different level, or they're this or they're that. And they come up and they say, I really connect with that story. Or my son is going through that now. Or my daughter has had these issues. Or, and people that I got the chills, people that you wouldn't even think in a million years would connect to those stories. You made it through. You were bad enough to make it through. Now it's your obligation to share that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obligation and pleasure. It's like, it is. It's like when we rehash our stories that can be pretty traumatic, we have to go back and kind of like maybe relive them emotionally. When you get to a point where you can tell the story and it doesn't cause you to crumble, you've arrived.
Yep.
It's a story is what it is. It's a story. It is what made you who you are today. But the thing is, it's just a story. It no longer has an emotional hook, but the story is what the experience is, what made you who you are today. And that's what the audience wants to hear, is that story. So all you entrepreneurs out there that are listening, it's like, this is the big why of what you do. The big wide story. And that is the most critical story in your entire speech. Because it taps into your values and your beliefs. And that's what the audience wants to hear. Yep. So no matter what business you're in, and Dave, you've been in multiple businesses, so have I. Yeah. No matter what business you're in, your story really never changes. No. Because it has nothing to do with your business and what the business does. It won't disappear. It's all there.
It's so true. And let's go even a little deeper, right? Like you were saying, once you could do that without cringing, now, once you get to that point, now what's even better is now once you could do it and feel proud, right? This is what I got through. This is what I had to figure out. And here's the other thing too. If people run from their struggles, I want to give them real proof. You ready? If you're not sure that struggle equals strength, I will prove you wrong, and I will lean on nature. The mama bird knows that it can help the baby get out of that shell anytime it wants. But nature reminds the mama bird that if I don't let my baby peck its way out of that shell, it will not be strong enough to face life. If you didn't go through those struggles, you were not strong enough to face life.
Right. Right. Yeah, because life has a way of kicking us to the curb once in a while, doesn't it?
You know what? It's struggle equals strength, right? It's,
yep.
Are you willing to get strong enough to get through that struggle to get on the other side, right? And that's exactly why I wrote the book, Fearless is Bullshit, right? Because here's what happens. Growing up, especially as where I grew up, and as a boy and as a man, I was conditioned to think if I showed fear, I was weak. There was something wrong.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of men, and women too. And women, we're raised that way too.
But here's the thing. When you look back as an adult and you can step back and think for yourself, I realized that no, actually fear is a feeling just like love, just like anger, just like anxiety, just like in alignment. It's either your strongest propeller or your heaviest anchor. But once you break through that fear, right, you face that fear. Now what happens when you get on the other side? Now it's about being courageous, because courage comes from that 3-letter word core, from the inside.
People ask me, how can you get courageous? Because it's a big word and it's a big feeling and everything like that. And I says, this is what I tell them. I says, it only takes a moment of being brave. When you start with just a moment, just think about, just be brave in the moment, one moment, little moment, and it builds on that.
Yeah.
And just being courageous enough to do what you need to do, to get on a stage and talk, and you never thought you'd be able to do that.
Right.
And here you are.
And here's a little life hack when people are talking about, how do I become courageous? How do I face that fear? Here's what I tell people too is, and this really relates to the stage, which you will absolutely get. Take yourself out of the equation. See, it's not about you. It's about the value that you're going to bring to help the other person. Yeah. So I just flew back to Jersey about 2.5 months ago. My ex-father-in-law, who I was really close with, passed away. We were really, really close. So me and my ex-wife are still, and her family, we're still really close. So she asked if I would do the eulogy. So when I came out to do the eulogy, I go, Michelle, you understand that I'm just going to come up and share stories. You understand that, right? And it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to raise this vibration. She goes, I know. That's why I want you to do it. Right? So that's what I did. I shared the stories. And what I tell people is, I realized when my parents passed away within 4 months of each other, that we have the ability and the wherewithal to make a decision. I can cry because it's over, or I can smile because it happened. And when you decide to smile because it happened, it changes the whole game. And again, I love giving proof, right? And if people are questioning that statement, I will prove how correct that is. That person that was so prevalent in your life moved on, passed away, and you're feeling guilty because you're not in a somber state for a long time. Here's how you get out of that. Here's how you smile because it happened. That person that passed away, if you ask them what they want you to do, they will say, I want you to live your life, be happy, and rejoice that we had this time.
Yes.
Right? So that now takes and that maps back to, it's not about you, right? It's about the other people. Once you can take that pressure off yourself, man, the floodgates open.
Yeah, there's freedom in that. There is so much freedom in that.
It's liberation. It's the ultimate, it's like the ultimate quality of life, right? It's that peace, that serenity, and that knowing.
Yeah. That's absolutely
a little passionate.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you for that. So do you want to jump into now those what 5 steps that you promised they were going to?
Yeah. So the one is a 4-step process, and I just call it your signature. First of all, your story is your superpower, and when you can, and you, this is what you teach people, and when you can, this is just a simple little formula. And it's just your signature story that you could use on podcasts, that you can use on stage, that you can use when you're networking, or you can use just as communication with people. And it starts with connect, right? So when you're on stage, when you're on a podcast, share a heartfelt story that relates to the message, right? Because people they're going to remember stories. That's what's going to. So when you're getting on stage, you're getting on the podcast, you're in a webinar, you're in a networker, just share a personal story that connects you now with that other person or those people, right? Then teach something that's helped you in life. Share that, right? Then come back and reconnect with either keep that open loop of that first story, or bring another story in that connects, right, with you and the audience and the people. And then last but not least, and now we're going business wise, is don't be afraid to show and share social proof, right? So when I do my talks now, I actually share in the slides multiple different businesses. So if I'm applying a certain formula, or I'm teaching something, I now share a personal story that related to one of my businesses that shows them that it works, right? Yeah. That's social proof. So when you follow that connect, teach, connect, social proof, there you go. And it's so simple to do, and such a powerful, simple little formula.
Yeah, it is. It is simple, and yet with some people it's super difficult. And it goes back to, we naturally want to go to who we are and make it all about us. It's the ego. It's just being human, and it's all about, us. A lot of entrepreneurs, we're just, they're just out there trying to make the almighty dollar and get another client and grow their business. That's kind of where we all are all the time. And it's to let go of that high need to let the ego do our talking. Let go of it. And like you said, the stories, I was like, yes, I help people design their stories based on who they are, and multiple stories, just as a starting point, because they just don't know where to start. They don't think their story is important because they lived it. And they're like, why is that important? And I go, because it taps into your values. And people want to know who you really are through your values. But here's a bunch of stories, short stories you're going to put in your back pocket. And when the situation arises, you just kind of like pull it up. And then one little simple little trick that I help people with is, when you don't know what to say, when somebody asks you what you do, start your little story off with once upon a time. And that starts your thought process, and the other person that you're talking to, it puts them into that little tiny little trance. It takes them back to their childhood of hearing those once upon a time stories. And then no matter what you say, you've pretty much got them.
Yeah.
You're getting out of you. And you got their attention, because who starts your little bio with once upon a time? It's like, that's the whole thing about the little elevator speech. It's got to be unique. Nowadays, people have a script, they say it, it's dry, it's boring, it's next kind of thing. And it's like, but what if you made one that was really unique and you just popped it out no matter what? I never forget the fact, I think it was at the event we were at, Dave. Maybe one close to it. But some guy came up to me. I was standing in the corner like I always do. I observe. I just stand in the corner and just watch everything. And he came up to me. He says, so, how you doing and everything? And I said, great. And he says, so what is it that you do? And I says, well, right now I am standing in the corner just looking gorgeous. How am I doing? And he cracked up, and we had a conversation from there. And then ultimately, yeah, I shared exactly what I do in my business, but you got to be unique and different, and you got to use what's in the room and in the moment, and then people remember you.
100%. And when you could do that in your flavor, it's just game changer.
Yeah.
But where's this map back to, so people understand? It maps back to your self-image. See, your self-image, if it's not built up, it won't allow you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important for people to understand, is your self-image is the epicenter.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be so grounded, just be, it's like you get to a place where you're grounded. And,
Yeah.
and honestly, it doesn't matter how old you are. I have an assistant. She's so grounded. She's in her 20s.
Yeah.
She is so grounded. So it doesn't really matter how old you are or what experiences you had. When you just acknowledge and accept it, you accept what the good Lord's given you, and you just go with it, and we relax and have fun. It's just.
And if you think about it,
grounded.
Actually, the younger we are, the more transparent we are, right? And then the conditioning says, sit down, be quiet. Children should be seen, not heard. Things like that. That old conditioning that now, as we take into our young adulthood, it just changes the game, right? But when we're young, that's when we're the most transparent, and we are unlimited in what our capabilities are, what we see ourselves in. As a little boy, I was a cowboy. I had a cowboy hat. I had the guns. I was always riding my horse in my mind, right? And then I got a little older, and I was always a big fan of, believe it or not, it's going to shock you, of pro wrestling, WWE, right? I wanted to be a WWE superstar, but in my mind, right, I went there. And as we get older, our conditioning says, don't go there, right? You're daydreaming, you're wasting time. But actually, it's the reverse. Yeah. When you go there, when you feel it, you will become it, right? Your thoughts, feelings, and action create the results.
It's true. It's very, very true. Very, very true. Okay, Dave, before we run out of time here, why don't you share with us a couple more things that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, so
I just really don't. I'm at a point, like I could ask you so many questions. We could go on for an hour.
It's a truth. So what I love to share and teach, and I as you know, my specialty, I love working with entrepreneurial women because of my life and what between my business life and my personal life, starting with my mom, my ex-wife. And I had an office manager in my first business. I had a public adjusting firm, Robin, and she literally did everything. Wow. I would write her a check on Friday, and I'd say, and she was very quiet and reserved, but man, she was a beast when it came to business and running my office. And I used to say to her, I'd say, Robin, I give her the check. I'd say, what are you and your husband doing this weekend? She goes, oh, I don't know, maybe go to dinner and maybe a movie. I go, listen, don't do anything crazy. I need you Monday. I would have put in the Pope Mobile so nothing happened. She did laugh, so let me share this with you, Johnie. People say, why do you like working or love working with women when it comes to business? Because here's the deal, and this is true. The baddest human being on the planet, bar none, is a good woman. My definition of a good woman: can handle her business personally and professionally. That's my definition. And if somebody doesn't understand that, they're either not telling the truth or they're living under a rock if they've been on this earth any length of time. A good woman can handle everything. And here's how I'm going to prove it. You ready? We could go into any professional office right now, doctors, lawyers, chiropractor, dentist. Who's running the show?
Yeah.
Women, right?
Yep. Yep.
But here's what happens is they forget how powerful they are. They forget, right, what they bring to the table. So I love working with women in business. So what I love to teach and share is certain things that in today's world, so we're in today's world with social media, you can't run from this. Your personal brand is everything. Your personal brand in the world we live in today, people want to know you. Right. They want to know your vulnerabilities. Right. They want to know what you came through, right, to get to where you are, because that create your vulnerability creates your credibility.
Yeah.
In the real world. So there's practical steps that I share about bringing more value, right? Setting yourself apart, rising above the noise in your industry, right? And there's certain things, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you have to start to become vulnerable. So one of the things that I talk about is it's UVP, your ultimate value proposition, right? But really break that down. What do you bring to your industry that's unique? What is your flavor? What's going to separate you? And when I speak, I actually give real world examples of some of my businesses. And the other is the YSS, right? Your signature service. What is it that nobody else does in your own unique way?
Yes.
That you can own, right? Yep. That people will connect to you, whether you're a realtor, whether you're a mortgage salesperson, whether you sell cars, whatever it is you do, right? If you're a coach, you got to tap into that uniqueness. You got to tap in, but you got to build the courage to do that, right? Yeah. And that's ultimately what I love to do. And look, at the end of the day, I love doers, right? I connect with doers. And interesting enough, when a good woman can understand what their intention is and move in that direction, they will get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Doers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you touched on a piece of what it's kind of like what I do in my training with public speakers, as the people, these women and people. I'm sorry. I hope this noise isn't coming through. They're watching me outside of my house.
All right.
But it's like we don't understand that our power is how we've lived our life. We don't understand that it's valuable, and it's because we're number one. If you're humble, you don't have to brag about it. You're just living it. But there's value in the stories and how you're living your life, and who you are and how you got here. And my job as a trainer is to pull that out of you and to help you understand that it's a story that people need to hear.
Yeah.
It's that, and people say, well, I don't want to be vulnerable because it's, weak, and it's just, what is the meaning of being vulnerable? The actual meaning that we're talking about here is just being open. Mm-hmm. Just being open and receiving, and not worry about whether someone's gonna, say something wrong about your story. Your story is your story, and nobody. And the other thing is the brand. You were kind of touching on branding. And yes, I work with a lot of coaches. Okay, there's a million coaches out there, right? Nowadays, there's personal trainers. There's a million. What makes you unique? That someone, I could you go to any personal trainer anywhere that could pretty much almost do the same thing. But what makes you unique? And that's your brand. And that's sometimes really hard to find. It's hard to pull out of a person exactly what that is and then attach it to your brand.
You're so right. And let's give them real proof again, right? Let's go back to real proof. That's why Instagram stories, that's why Snapchat stories, that's why social media is so powerful, because you're getting the real, right? You're getting that live and real. And let's go back even further. Before social media, why did reality shows wind up crushing sitcoms? Because we're getting the real, right? Yeah. We're getting that realness. And that's what, as a human being, we starve for that. And now here's what's so awesome about branding, personal and business branding in today's world we live in. Now we don't have to wait for somebody to open the door. We become our own media outlet. We become our own PR platform, right? If it's done correctly, and correctly simply is showing up real. Again, your vulnerability is your credibility, right?
Yep.
I struggled in school. I was left back. I was told I'm not supposed to win. But now that created my credibility.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm here.
You're living proof.
I'm here, right? Your vulnerability is your superpower.
Yeah.
And that's what we both teach, right? That's because we've been on this earth long enough where we know it's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it is a fact. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't teach. I never thought I would ever be teaching this public speaking, grow your business kind of thing right now. It kind of like happened a handful of years ago when a coach came up to me and she said, I like what you're doing. Can you teach me? And the thing is, though, I had to learn it. Prior to that, I started learning public speaking, well, number one, in college years ago, but seriously for my business over 10 years ago from mentors. But the thing is, half of what they taught me wasn't working. And it's because of my sensitivity and how, when you're sensitive, you're wired a different way than the other 80% of people on the planet. Dave, you're one of the most sensitive men I've ever met.
Thank you.
You're just, and I love that about you. It's like, and I think that's what draws people to you is that you're sensitive, I don't know, they can just feel it. It just oozes out of you every pore. And so as a sensitive person and entrepreneur and everything, I had to learn differently from different things. I ended up learning from a lot of different teachers in public speaking arena that are performers on stage and everything like that. And I go, well, number one, we don't want to be a performer. We don't want to do that. That's so inauthentic to us that we don't want to show up that way, especially if we're talking to an audience that could be potential clients. We want to be authentic. And that's what started this whole journey of, okay, I'm going to create my own program. I'm going to take bits and pieces of what I've learned in all these different speaking educators, and I'm going to create my own program. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done. Sensitive Authentic Speaker Academy. And I have got amazing graduates over the years that have come around and actually been able. I'm thinking of one person in particular. So I was like, oh gosh, I can't bypass the story. She was so terrified to speak, and she was actually an employee of a company, and she was missing out on promotions and pay raises and everything because she couldn't get up in front of the other employees and give a report once a month. And so she came into my program, and I just kept talking to her and asking her. She was shaking in her boots. I swear, she was just like terrified. And this is what I know from my background in education is that all of our fears and negative emotions come from our childhood and what we learned in our childhood. And so I just kept asking her questions about where in her childhood was she told to not talk, to not speak, to be good. And she went back into memory and she said, oh, I totally forgot about this. I remember my mom specifically telling me no matter where we went as a 3-year-old or whatever, that be quiet, be good. Be quiet, be good. And that was running in her head like a loop. And now as an adult, trying to live in the adult world and do what she needed to do, she couldn't do it.
Yep.
It physically made her sick. But once I walked her through that and took her there, it's like, I didn't have to do much more after that because the light bulb went on over her head and she goes, oh my God, I'm still carrying that with me. Yep. And I said, now you can let it go.
Yeah, it's our conditioning, right?
It absolutely is.
It's our conditioning, and you have to be willing to face it head on, address it, and be willing to grow. You got to be willing to grow. And with the cool thing about that is now her level of awareness just went up.
Yeah.
Right? Her level, and the other thing that happens too, to go a little deeper on that is when you go back into that conditioning, when you start to identify it, and let's talk about, because I had Monster Motivator TV for about 1.5 years, and we did almost 80 episodes, and the whole chapter in my last book is Monster Motivator TV, and it's just testimonials of people that have been on the show. And but we've had some really, really intense stories, like tragic and that. And what I share with people too is how you change from that, how you get better from that is first and foremost understanding as human beings, we can only operate at our own level of awareness, wherever that is. So if you had a parent, or you had a guardian, or you had an aunt or uncle that abused you or didn't do the right thing, you have to understand that they can only operate at their level of awareness, right? Doesn't condone it, but it allows you to leave that baggage now.
Yeah.
Now you can move on because that was their level of awareness. They couldn't go any further, right? That thermostat stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, they were unaware of it. That's the whole thing. It was like it carried with them through their entire life and dictated everything they were doing, and they were unaware of it. So yeah, once there's an awareness, it's pretty much all over. Game one. Okay, Dave, this has been awesome. And I want to ask you one more thing. It's like people are going to love your stories and love you. And I know they're going to want to connect with you. How can they do that? Of course, you're going to give me links. So wherever this is posted, the link will be there. But just tell the people where they can get a hold of you.
Real simple. Dave Daley, Daley, like monstermotivator.com. Dave Daley, on all my social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
Yeah.
We're there and we post throughout the day. So I am definitely not hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's worth finding. That's for sure. Thank you, Dave, so much. So much. It's always a pleasure. I know we're going to do this again down the road.
I love it. And if I can leave with one statement for your audience.
Yes.
I want everyone out there to ask themselves this question.
Yeah.
If you're not here to leave your legacy, then why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
So you ask yourself that question, whatever that means for you, whatever that definition is. If you're not here to leave your legacy, then why are you here?
That's right. It's very, very true. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you. I so appreciate you. You have no idea how much I appreciate you.
Feel it. It's so great. It's just, I feel it. I feel it. And so people understand how real this is. When I walked into that room last week, and we haven't seen each other in over a year, right?
Probably, yeah.
Over a year.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
It was instant.
Yeah.
The energy, it was instant, right? It was just instant. That cannot be manufactured.
No, it can't be. It can't be. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have very many people that happens to, but when it does, I truly appreciate it because it is like magic. It is.
It's magic. Yes. It's awesome. Love it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dave. And I know my audience, you're just going to love this talk and this interview. And yeah, and so packed with gold. So thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to Johnie Urban, founder and owner of Sensitive Authentic Speaker, sensitiveauthentic.speaker.com.